A portion of today's video is sponsored by LastPass. Yo guys, Jonathan here, and this is a story of how I ditched my iPhone XS Max, ultimately ended up with the iPhone XR, and at the end of it, why I feel like it is the best iPhone for most people. Now normally, or at least in my head, I'm team no case, but I've dropped and I've broken way too many phones for that to even make sense, so as much as I don't want to, I usually rock a case. This was my iPhone XS Max in a case. And maybe like 4-5 months ago, for whatever reason, I took it out of its case and was like, oh my God, this feels amazing. I'm gonna leave it out. Bad idea. Not even a week later, my dumbass drops the phone, and it might not look that bad in the case, but underneath is a completely different, sad story, to the point where it's not like your typical, just got a spider web crack in there. It is nightmare cracked all the way down to the inside of the phone, to the point where I figured it's probably not smart to continue using this unless I want a glass in my face. Now, opposed to fixing it or trying to replace it, I figured this was the perfect chance to put my money where my mouth was, because I've talked about it before and felt that the iPhone XR was the iPhone that most people should buy. And after switching, what surprised me most wasn't that I enjoyed the iPhone XR, but rather that I didn't miss the iPhone XS Max not even 1%. What's also surprising is the amount of people who still use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as their password. It's 2019, knock it off, check out LastPass, and again, big thanks to them for sponsoring this portion of the video. So LastPass is kind of like your own personal assistant that remembers all your passwords for you. And I feel like this has happened to you before, where your mom, your dad, your grandma, grandpa gets locked out of their phone, and who do they call? You. With LastPass, you're not gonna have to write grandma's password down. So when she calls, you can talk about other things. Grandmas don't wanna talk about passwords. She'd rather talk about the Clippers being better than the Lakers. And when she's ready to order those sweet new Kawhis, LastPass makes that simple too. It stores her credit card, her shipping info, one click, grandma's got the kicks. And more importantly, it keeps all that secure, which deep down is something we want not just for our grandmas, but for ourselves as well. Check out LastPass for free or ball out with the premium version for $3 a month, linked below. And again, big thanks to them for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now with the iPhone XR, I realized that budget and $750 don't necessarily go together in the same sentence, and I still feel that if Apple would have charged $699 for the iPhone XR, it would have felt like a much better deal. But regardless, it's still the cheapest current gen iPhone you can pick up, with really not many sacrifices at all. What you're giving up with the iPhone XR essentially comes down to two things: an OLED display and that secondary telephoto lens, which I have missed the amount of championships the Lakers are gonna win with LeBron. 0.
What it do, baby?
You get the exact same A12 Bionic chip found in the iPhone XS and XS Max, so you're not sacrificing performance. You do, however, have 1 gig less of RAM, and I realize the RAM warriors about to freak out in the comments, but to be honest, I haven't noticed a difference. It is a really fast phone. Now, clearly, I have not learned my lesson with the iPhone XS Max because I have not used the case once with the iPhone XR. And I'm not sure if it's the sides, which somehow feel grippier to me, or if it's the actual size of the phone, but I haven't come close to dropping this once, whereas with the iPhone XS Max, if you're not using a case, that thing is ready to jump. Speaking of size, I think there is some truth to that, because I've always felt the iPhone XS Max was just a little too big. I love the form factor of the smaller iPhone XS, so with the iPhone XR, it's that perfect meet in the middle, almost like the Goldilocks of iPhones. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's just right. Hands down though, the biggest benefit of using an iPhone XR is battery life. It is night and day better than any other iPhone. I think that in itself is why most people should buy this phone. And really, the iPhone XR battery life is kind of like Batman. It's not the feature you need, it is the feature you deserve.
Swear to God. Swear to me!
I realize at this point the iPhone XR is now this weird Goldilocks Batman hybrid, but for real, I can get through the end of the day no problem, to the point where sometimes I don't even charge my phone until the next day. Now, jumping back to those sacrifices, what I was most scared of was going from OLED to LCD. And I'm not gonna sit here and paint this magical story that Apple somehow invented this LCD panel that's better than OLED, because it's not. You can definitely see a difference, but after about a week, I didn't find myself needing to go back, which is crazy. At this point, if you're still bashing into those sweet Cherry MXs about resolution, we gotta rewind for a second.
This is the 10R? Huh.
Wow.
Feel free to drop some Fs to pay respect to the fallen Poco phone boys, because clearly resolution isn't everything. And I can assure you, it is a really fantastic display. And the other thing you gotta remember is most people who are upgrading to the iPhone XR aren't coming from an OLED display. Now again, that second sacrifice with the iPhone XR is the lack of that secondary telephoto lens, which strangely enough has been a benefit for me. With the iPhone XS and XS Max, that uses that secondary telephoto lens for portrait mode, whereas with the iPhone XR, that uses the main wide-angle lens found on the iPhone XS and XS Max, and that actually performs better in low light with an f-stop of 1.8 versus 2.4. Yes, the focal length is different, so you're physically gonna need to move yourself and the phone closer to the subject, but because of that better low light performance, I found myself way happier with the portrait shots on the iPhone XR. One really annoying thing that I gotta point out with the iPhone XR is in portrait mode, unlike the iPhone XS and XS Max, you need to have an actual person in the shot for it to work, which is dumb. But aside from that, the overall performance on the camera with the iPhone XR has been incredible. That's something that I don't think Apple has really gotten enough credit for, and that's not just with the iPhone XR, but the iPhone XS and XS Max as well. The camera tech paired with the camera software is ridiculous, and I think it's gotten better over time, particularly the Smart HDR, which still blows my mind. This shot here almost doesn't make sense. It's taken from the inside, but the outdoor windows and the inside is all exposed perfectly. Like, you could not do this with a normal camera. It's bananas. So you get an incredible camera, a great display, and more importantly, better battery life than any other iPhone. I think that right there is the trifecta of what most people need for a smartphone. And not gonna lie, I really like the color options. Tim, please don't get rid of my blue. Again, with the iPhone XR, you get essentially everything you would with the iPhone XS and XS Max, Face ID, wireless charging. You do miss out on 3D touch, which I honestly forgot about until this exact moment, so it's not a huge deal, but let that sink in, especially with these new iPhones around the corner, the iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 Max, but don't sleep on the alleged iPhone 11R, which I think, again, will be the iPhone that most people should buy. Thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you guys drop a like, feel free to subscribe, and I will catch you guys later.
Blue, you're my boy!